I don't know why Nobu would charge $45 for this dish. An izakaya would easily charge like 15 to 20. Look at how flaky. Like the whole thing just kind of flakes apart. You definitely don't need like a knife and fork for this. Oh, it smells so good. It's amazingly good. And it's so soft and buttery. I've got a fillet of black cod. You can see the skin side here. And we're going to go ahead and, trim that down so you actually have it in like an angled piece. So you've got exposed flesh on both sides. It's a kind of like a traditional way to, I think, fillet fish. And what we're going to do is do not get this straight from your fishmonger or the grocery store. I actually got this at Whole Foods. And a good substitution if you can't find sablefish is like sea bass, like Chilean sea bass. But when I went to Whole Foods this past week, the Chilean sea bass was like $32 a pound or something, and the sablefish was on sale, which is surprising because usually sablefish is kind of considered like a luxury fish. So snagged myself some actual sablefish instead of using like a substitute fish. Although if you can't find sablefish, like I said, Chilean sea bass is a really good substitute. Bring the fish home. Go ahead and fillet them, but don't wash it in water. It's kind of, because you're going to be using a marinade with this. Traditionally you don't really want to use water to like wash meats anyway, although TikTok will tell you different. You kind of just want to rinse the fish to get that kind of fishy, oceany smell out that fresh fish comes with. So go ahead and fillet these and put them in a bowl. And instead of washing it with water, which will dilute the whole thing, you're going to just use sake. And what you're going to do is you're going to rinse the fish with sake. And all you're doing here is you're just going to kind of rinse. We call it namagusami, which is the smell of freshness, which specifically is kind of meant for like fish. But it basically just means that you're rinsing off the super fishy smell. And it's not super fishy anyway. I mean, it's not necessary to wait until it's fishy. I mean, that seems kind of unhealthy. So just bring it back from the supermarket and rinse it with some sake. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the pieces and just blot them off on some paper towel. You can see that the sake has gotten a little milky. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that your fish is now clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that away. And a couple more pieces of paper toweling just to blot this off. So you're not soaking the fish in the sake, you're just using it just to rinse off. You'll notice I'm actually using paper towels today instead of a towel. And kind of keep things a little bit more sanitary because we're working with raw fish. Now we're going to make the marinade. So, like I said, this is like super easy. You're going to take your 1/4 cup of white miso. not the red stuff. The red miso is a little too salty. White miso is a milder miso. The traditional miso that you use for Miso Black Cod is called saikyo miso, which is a white miso that's actually been sweetened. So I don't want to say it's exactly the same thing, but if you want to kind of think about how you've got sake and then you have mirin, which is like sake with sugar added. Saikyo miso is kind of the same kind of thing. It's miso that's gotten, there's like a sweetness to it. There's sugar included. And then there's also rice koji, which is, I think it's like a fermented rice bran that you can use for like all sorts of things. It's, gosh, I don't know what the equivalent would be in Western culture. Maybe it's like a sourdough, but it's not a dough. It's, you still see the little grain kernels, but it's good for like fermenting and tenderizing meats. Saikyo, not to be confused with psycho. Saikyo is written as the Western capital. So if you think of Tokyo, which is the Eastern capital, Saikyo is actually Kyoto, which used to be the capital of Japan before it moved to the Western capital of Tokyo. So Saikyo miso only means that it's like the miso that's from the Western capital of Kyoto, and it's used in a whole bunch of different dishes, but predominantly in this preparation with the black cod. So I'm just kind of softening up the miso here. And obviously I've gotten it completely embedded into my whisk. Okay, to that, it's super easy. It's a 1/4 cup of white miso. It's a 1/4 cup of sake. Make sure I have the right measurement. And like I was saying, we're not using saikyo miso, but we are using the sweetened sake rice wine, which is mirin. Do not use water and sugar in this if you don't have mirin. I wouldn't suggest using water and sugar. I would use like sake, more sake and sugar, I guess, but it's still not the same thing. So if you can get your hands on some mirin, it's really inexpensive, makes a world of difference. And you're going to add the same 1/4 cup of mirin to this. And 3 tablespoons, only 3, not a 1/4 cup. So it's 1/4 cup of miso, sake, and mirin, but it is 3 tablespoons of sugar. So I'm using a Japanese cane sugar here. You can just use regular old white sugar. Same deal. And we stir. So I was looking up prices. Not that I'm trying to be super frugal, but you know, if you end up going to a Japanese restaurant that has like, you know, black cod, whether you're going to like a Nobu type fancy place or an Izakaya, you still have to kind of get dressed and ready to go out. And this, this means you can make the same thing at home, and it's super, super easy. And there we go. We're going to pour this into some kind of flat-ish dish. I think you can maybe use a bowl if you don't have one of these, but this is a little bit easier to work with. You're going to pour the marinade in the bowl. Obviously, if you're cooking more pieces of fish, just double the recipe. And what we're going to do is place our rinsed off sablefish, black cod. See if I can find some chopsticks. And we're going to place these, doesn't matter which side down. This is just to marinate. Now, sablefish has pin bones. So if you're looking at the backside on the middle, you'll see where like the spine would have been. And there are pin bones in this, but sablefish, aka black cod, pin bones are very, very difficult to pull out. So it's just easier to just cook it with the pin bones in, and it'll be easy. It'll come out really, really easily once you've cooked it. And you know, you just need to warn the people who are eating to kind of watch out for the bones. But they're not tiny bones, and like I said, they come out really, really easily. So we're gonna put a lid on that. This goes into the fridge for a minimum of 2 days. Traditionally, saikyo miso gindara is, or sablefish, is kept in the fridge to marinate for up to 7 days. But because we're not using a saikyo miso with the koji starter, and we're just using straight miso and plain sugar instead of using that kind of developed sweet miso, this will actually be totally fine after like 2 days. Miracle of television. So this is the sablefish black cod gindara that's been marinating in the sweet miso marinade for 2 days. I want to be careful opening this because I don't want the marinade to fly out everywhere. So there we go. Got some on my hands. And here we go. So obviously these are different pieces from the ones I cut up earlier. So these are a little bit smaller. But you can see, you know, that the miso is kind of all over. And what you want to do is you want to take each piece and you want to just kind of get rid of the excess, but you're not going to rinse this or use a paper towel or anything like that. Then I like to do this skin side down. Now, it's up to you. If you want to do skin side up, you can. I just think that the way I'm cooking it does better in a with the skin side down in a toaster oven. Now, if you're going to use the oven, what I would do is I would sear this in a frying pan and then pop it in the oven. But with these smaller pieces, I think a toaster oven is just fine. That's usually how I cook it at home. Just like the salmon, the miso salmon that I made before. I'm going to actually take 3 pieces. Spread them out. Get another paper towel for myself. And this goes here. Lid goes back on, and this goes right back in the fridge for the next time I want to have some miso black cod. If you leave it in the marinade, it'll keep for about a week, maybe 2. 2 would get a really, really tender fish, and this is pretty tender already. But because traditionally it's marinated for 5 to 7 days, you can push this 5 to 7 days at minimum. You could probably go to like 10. So this goes into, in my case, a toaster oven. That that toaster oven. But you can always pop it in the oven. If you're going to use the oven, like I said, sear it and then pop it in a 425-degree oven for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of your fish. In the toaster oven, I'm able to rock this out without having to sear this on a frying pan and then putting it in a hot oven, especially on a warmer day. I can do this for like 15 minutes in a toaster oven and it's perfect. So let me go do that and we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. Oh my God, it smells so good in here. There's really something about the combination of sake and miso and fish that just makes everything smell amazing, and not in the same way as like, you know, like a sugary baked good. It's a savory umami smell. It's just, oh, and it's very different from like that whole, oh, you microwave fish at the office. It's not that kind of smell. It's a very good smell. But here, take a look at this. So this is just in the toaster oven. And it looks so good and it smells amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and plate this up a little bit. And then we'll give it a little taste test. Look at that. Doesn't that look good? So let's go ahead and do a taste test. And look at how flaky. Like the whole thing just kind of flakes apart. You definitely don't need like a knife and fork for this. Oh, it smells so good. It's amazingly good. And it's so soft and buttery. There's, it's just, it's slightly sweet. It's not sweet like the miso salmon. It's, and look at that, a pin bone. But that's how big they are. So super, super easy to remove after. And there's another one. But you don't have a lot of these like tiny, tiny bones, so don't worry. So if you go to an izakaya, this is traditionally served just kind of like this, like appetizer style, with no accompaniment. So you're supposed to just, you know, you can enjoy this with like a glass of sake or a beer or some chuhai, or something non-alcoholic, if that is your preference. You can also serve this with rice and make a whole meal out of it. But I tend to be of the izakaya variety who just wants to eat this as a high protein, super umami packed protein. Oh, so good. Look at how oily that is. Like that's all, it's that cold water oiliness. Because we didn't put any oil on this before we cooked it. A little bit. So yeah, super, super tasty, super easy to make. I mean, you can just make a batch of this and just put this in the fridge for whenever you have company that is into this kind of food, into this kind of cuisine, and say, look, let me just whip some up, 15 minutes. If you look for the recipe online, some recipes will say that you can cook the marinade ahead of time. I don't like doing that. I like using a cold marinade. So sorry, I'm salivating because it's so good. But yeah, I don't know why Nobu would charge $45 for this dish. An izakaya would easily charge like 15 to 20. Make this at home. It's so much easier. You get so many pieces. A piece of, like I was saying at the beginning, a piece of Chilean sea bass at Whole Foods this week was like around 30 bucks, 30 to 35 bucks a pound. Sablefish or black cod was on sale this week for like, I think it was like 11 bucks a pound, like 10.59 or something like that. So yeah, grab it when it's on sale. Grab it when it's in season. Well, I don't know if there's a season for it, but grab it when it's in your supermarket. Don't buy it frozen. Always buy fresh when it comes to fish, especially when it comes to something like this. I think that you can probably use a frozen fish, but I don't know if sablefish comes frozen. Salmon does. And I know like Chilean sea bass can. So again, try it. And I hope you enjoy it.